How Long Will It Fizz by Monica Delgado. My hypothesis is that the Alka-Seltzer tablet that is in thirds will last the longest and the one that is in half will last the shortest amount of time. Does the size of the Alka-Seltzer matter? If I put 3 different sizes of Alka-Seltzer, each in a glass of water, will they still create a chemical reaction? If so, how long will it take to finish reacting? Alka-Seltzer is used to help with an upset stomach, heartburn, and indigestion. Alka-Seltzer dissolves in water to form a solution. There is a chemical change. The bubbles that form when Alka-Seltzer dissolves in water are carbon dioxide produced by a chemical reaction. The materials I used were 9 cups of water, 3 cups, 9 Alka-Seltzer tablets, a measuring cup, a timer, a knife, scrap paper, and a pencil. Put 1 cup of water into each cup. Label each cup with the size of the Alka-Seltzer. Break the Alka-Seltzer. Put the Alka-Seltzer in the cups one at a time. Time the reactions and repeat 2 more times. The independent variable was the size of the Alka-Seltzer. The dependent variable was that some might not fizz. And the control variable was, will it still work when it's broken to pieces? The data table was that Alka-Seltzer broken in half on trial 1 lasted 1 minute, 1 second, and 48 milliseconds. For trial 2, it lasted 56 seconds and 85 milliseconds. Trial 3 lasted 50 seconds and 4 milliseconds. The average was 36.01. For the fourth in trial 1, it lasted 56 seconds and 64 milliseconds. In trial 2, it lasted 50 seconds and 99 milliseconds. On trial 3, it lasted 54 seconds and 91 milliseconds. The average for the fourth was 54.18. And the thirds for trial 1 was 59 seconds and 44 milliseconds. For trial 2, it was 54 seconds and 67 milliseconds. For trial 3, it was 52 seconds and 91 milliseconds. The average for the thirds was 55 seconds and 67 milliseconds. Here's the graph. Here are pictures of the cups that I labeled, the Alka-Seltzer, and the Alka-Seltzer that when I broke it into pieces. In my experiment, the tablets cut in fourths. Average amount of time was 54 seconds and 18 milliseconds. The thirds average amount of time was 55 seconds and 67 milliseconds. And lastly, the halves average time was 36 seconds and 1 millisecond. In conclusion, my hypothesis was correct because I predicted that the halves would last the shortest amount of time and that the thirds would be the longest amount of time. I would like to thank my mom for buying me the materials I need, also my sister for helping me, and Miss Angela for answering any questions I had. For my resources, I used Google Book and Science Buddies.
Paint Splash Pattern by Daisy Heredia. Problem: if I drop a balloon filled with paint, will it make a big splash? What if I drop it from a higher distance? Will it affect it? Background research. A balloon is defined as a flexible bag filled with helium or air. Paint is made up of pigment to provide color or coverage. How big the splash is also depends on the amount of paint in the balloon. My hypothesis is if I hold the balloon higher, then it will create a bigger splash because it has more speed and force for when it hits a surface. The materials I used were balloons, paint, a trash bag, and a tape measure. My procedure: get the balloon, blow air in it, let the air out, put paint in the balloon, tie the balloon, drop the balloon. My independent variable was how high the balloon falls. My dependent variable was the size of the splash, and my control variable was the size of balloon and amount of paint. On the first attempt, of dropping it from 3 feet high, it was 16 inches, and on my second attempt, it was 17 inches, and on my third attempt, it was 19 inches. And on my first attempt from dropping it 5 feet, it was 22 inches, and on my second attempt, it was 24 inches, and on my third attempt, it was 19 inches. And on my first attempt from dropping it from 7 feet high, it was 20 inches, and on my second attempt, it was 25 inches, and on my third attempt, it was 22 inches. Here is my graph. Here are some pictures from trial 1 and 2. I forgot to take a picture for trial 3 because it was getting dark. And the results in the 3 feet dropped, I had to drop it a few times, but when it popped, it made a nice pattern splash. In the 5 feet drop, the balloon popped in the second or third attempt. In the 7 feet drop, the balloon popped right away. In conclusion, my hypothesis was correct because the biggest splash was 25 inches, and that was when I dropped it from 7 feet high. Acknowledgements. I want to say thank you to my dad for letting me use his tape measure, and thank you to my mom for buying me the supplies I needed. The resources I used were Britannica, Science Sparks, Inclometium, Science World, and Google.
The science behind smiling. How does the amount of smiles change depending on age and gender? Research shows that there is definitely a difference between a female smile and a male smile. Research has also found that women smile more than men, but there are also other factors such as occupation. And some studies do find that men do smile more than women, so it really depends on your group. I think that the older the subject group is, the less smiles there will be. In order to complete this experiment, you will need yearbooks with 7 different grade levels. You will need to randomly select 5 pictures from each grade level and identify whether the pictures you chose, the individual is smiling or not smiling, as well as their gender. You will need to enter this data into a table and compare results depending on gender and grade level. During the experiment, I found that a large majority of the people in the pictures are smiling. I assume that that's because when you take a picture, the photographer actually tells you to smile. Results. As you can see in the graphs, in kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, and 7th grade, everyone continued to smile, although in 6th grade 2 people did not smile, 1 male and 1 female. I believe that because my samples were pictures that people were actually told to smile, it probably tainted my experiment, so I do not have reliable results because they did not smile based off of their instinct. My hypothesis was correct because the only 2 non-smilers were in one of my 2 oldest groups. In order to get a more accurate result, I would need to take pictures where people are not instructed to smile. Acknowledgements. I would like to thank my mom for insisting to buy a yearbook every single year. I would also like to thank both of my parents for dealing with me when I was badgering them for supplies for this project. And finally, I would like to thank Adobe Spark for the program on which I created this.
Question. Does color affect memory? Let's say you've got the part of the Beast in an upcoming play to your school's drama club. Congrats! Now you have to memorize your line and the scene of the play by Monday. What do? A, B, or C? Most common answer is C. Use highlighters on the script to memorize your lines. That's a smart option. Using highlighters is an extremely effective practice to help memorization. This is why. The purpose of highlighting is to draw attention to important information in a text. By using bright colors with strong contrast, you draw the eyes to a certain location. In a similar way, a black and white page, the focus would be a bright highlighter. As a result, it would be easier to remember. Even people with red and green color blinds could still see yellow. That's why it's the most popular color for highlighters. This is my hypothesis. If color is in fact connected to the human brain to memory, then the highlighting of text is in fact a good practice in the remembrance of important information. Variables. Independent variables are as such: the amount of information given to one time per stage, the amount of repetition with each piece of information. Dependent variables: the color when used highlighting to text unless it corresponds to a specific topic needed to be learned. The amount of people looking at one piece of information and how well they learned the piece. Experiment procedures. Take the pieces of information and give the person 20 to 30 seconds with each piece in different order and ask them if they remember what the piece of information was based on, the color, or vice versa. After the task was complete, ask them once again if they remember the piece of information given to them before they began the task. Based off the amount correct per each color, the highest number of color will be used. We best use in need to remember something. After each question was asked, ask them to do a different activity that uses memory as its core subject. Analyze the data. A common data as showed as predicted. When color was used, the person tested showed an increase in focus and memory. A common increase was also shown with bright colors. Repetition may have also taken a part in memorization. The usage of color also altered in long-term memory. With 10 members used, 6 of them remember long-term information with color instead of without. Conclusion. In conclusion, the usage of color did in fact increase chances of memorization, proving my hypothesis correct. Human error. When texting, the long-term effects of color information aren't always as expected. When subject A was asked to memorize the sequence 3-4-2-2-5-4, when upon return he instead remembered the sequence 0-1-5-3-4-6, which was the score of a recent activity. The person involved was a sibling, and also seemed very uninterested the whole time, so that might have something to do with it too. Struggles and special things. Common struggles is that I focused are too much color. It was too messy and it showed loss of focus and memorization. I want to thank my lab rats for assisting me in this assignment. I also wanted to get this procedure done.
Science Fair 2020 to 2021 inquiry-based. Question and problem. Which brand of battery lasts the longest? What made me interested in this is to know which batteries to buy next time I'm at the store. My research, Duracell says it's the longest lasting battery. Hypothesis. My hypothesis is Energizer will last the longest. Variables. Control variable, the flashlight, independent variable, batteries, dependent variable, amount of time the battery lasts. Experiment, procedure, steps. First, I put the Energizer AA batteries in the flashlight, then turn the flashlight on and start a stopwatch. Then after the flashlight turns off and the batteries die, I take the batteries out and put the Walgreen batteries in the flashlight and turn it on and start a stopwatch. Then I take them out after the batteries die. I then put the Duracell batteries in the flashlight, turn it on, and start the stopwatch. Once they die, I take them out and track down the amount of time each brand battery lasts. Analyze the data. Walgreens, 23 hours. Energizer, 22 hours. Duracell, 24 hours. Walgreens, 21 hours. Energizer, 22 hours. Duracell, 23 hours. Walgreens, 22 hours. Energizer, 21 hours. Duracell, 22 hours. Walgreens average was 22 hours. Energizer's, 21.67 hours. Duracell's, 23 hours. Conclusions. My hypothesis was incorrect. The longest lasting brand of battery is Duracell. I can conclude that Duracell is the longest lasting by 1 hour. Second was Walgreens with 22 hours. Third was Energizer with 21.67 hours. Human error. If I were going to do this differently, I would use different batteries. Struggles and special thanks. It was hard to remember to stop the stopwatch. I would like to give a shout out to my mom and dad for helping.
My name is Cecilia Rosa Flores. My project's name is the Sun Chariot, and it is an engineered design-based project. Each year, there are more and more trapped greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. Greenhouse gases trap the sun's heat in the Earth's atmosphere. An imbalance in these gases causes the planet to have environmental problems. These problems can range from climate change to rising of the ocean levels. The pollution can also negatively affect human health. This has led me to create for my science fair project the plans with the aim of a prototype of a sun-powered vehicle that is environment friendly. Pollution is impacting our planet and making changes that we can see today, not only affecting the nature around us but humans themselves. This is why humans need to take action and start repairing the damage that pollution has created. According to the greenhouse gas GHG, more than 28% of the United States pollution is from transportation vehicles, making it the largest contribution to the U.S. greenhouse emission. The yearly growing transportation pollution contributing to the greenhouse gas emission and bad health of humans are a great motivation and need for more environmentally friendly transportation. This is why the science fair project that I'll be working on is
No.
created just that.
Nope.
If the results are
But watch it
successful,
so that you
it could
see
open a
what
path for
it's
further
demonstrating.
investigation. If provided with enough energy, a car can function with a solar system. The Sun Chariot project requires to obtain energy from the sun's radiation. It should be constructed with the most environmental friendly material possible. It should also require to charge at a certain rate and work at a certain speed. The exterior shell of the car should be made of a combination of recycled plastics. The base of the structure should be a combination of recycled plastics and wood. The lithium-ion cell 500-watt battery should be connected to the mounted electric motor with copper rotor. The wheel should be in place and should be attached to the rods in the steering column. The steering column converts the movements of the steering wheel to the movements of the wheel. At last, the battery cable should be connected to the solar panels, which should be placed on top of the vehicle. An alternative that I could have possibly used was to place solar panels at the back, top, and front of the car. This change would have added extra weight to the car and possibly obstructed visibility. I could have also chosen other materials for its exterior shell. For example, I could have chosen iron instead of plastic. This slight change would have added more structure to the vehicle, but also added more weight. An alternative that I could have also used was only using plastic for the base instead of wood and recycled plastic. This change would have made the base less sturdy and the car less efficient. This is my project, the Sun Chariot. After profound and thorough testing, I have come to the conclusion that the prototype was unsuccessful. The Sun Chariot failed to obtain the necessary energy in the required amount of time and failed to obtain the wanted speed. The prototype was unable to be created of the most environmental friendly materials possible. With better materials and more efficient solar panels, the hypothesis would have been correct for the Sun Chariot. Even with all its failures, it still provided a possible idea for more innovating projects in the science that will work towards helping the planet. I committed the error of using the wrong materials. If I were to do this project again, I would have used more efficient solar panels and a stronger motor to carry all the weight. I would have also used lighter materials to make the external layer of the vehicle prototype. Sadly, because of these human errors, the Sun Chariot was not as successful as it could have been. I had many struggles along the way, but I could resolve them thanks to perseverance. I had a hard time finding the right materials, but with patience I figured a way. It was difficult for me to find a base that was stable enough to sustain the equipment and that was recycled at the same time. All thanks to a lot of searching, I found the right piece. So thank you, me. Because of you, I didn't give up.